A post-apocalyptic nightmare turns into a quest for hope when a woman sets out on a mission to deliver news of the world's last remaining hero. We're going to talk about it in our review of Finale, the one-shot from Travis Corwin. See you in 3. And welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Finale one-shot by Travis Corwin. And in this issue, we get a tale of hope and truth in a post-apocalyptic world where the survivors receive news about how their favorite story and the hero at the center of it ended. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. Your attention is greatly appreciated. Please hit that bell for notification and make sure you stay tuned through the end for the final score. Let's talk about the credits. Finale, the one-shot, is written by Travis Corwin, art by Philip Ginn, or Gin, I'm not sure which it is exactly, but it's spelled with the G, so Philip Ginn. Colors also, and letters, and the cover art also by Philip Ginn. So let's talk about what's going on in this issue. This is an indie comic, so it's in one of our indie submissions. The creators submitted it to us for review, and we're giving it a fair shake. Let's talk about exactly what the central premise is, which isn't clear from the very beginning, but once you get into the story, it becomes a little bit more obvious. The central character is a hero, or the protagonist, if you will, by the name of Asa. We learn through narration and a little bit of flashbacks, information from Asa's mind, and also through their interactions with the people she encounters on her travels as she rides on her horse, that the world has fallen into a post-apocalyptic type of disaster scenario, because the world had learned to become dependent on something called antinodes, which are these rips in space-time that produce monumental amounts of energy. It allowed them to build advanced technology, advanced communication, and even travel to the stars. One day, however, unfortunately, the antinodes just disappeared, and the world and even the distant colonies that have all become dependent on this energy suddenly fell silent. Massive amounts of people died, communication was all but obliterated, nothing worked. Effectively, humanity was cast back down into the Stone Ages, for lack of a better description. Asa, however, has a special message that she needs to deliver to the people of a particular settlement, and the message brings good news, or at least news that they've been waiting for. She encounters highway robbers. She encounters people in the particular cities that are fallen into darkness and decay, that want to steal resources, attack her maybe as a stranger because they're reacting out of fear, and anything else you can encounter. She eventually makes it to the settlement, and she says she brings news of a particular person by the name of Guy Winters. And what we come to learn is that Guy Winters is the main character, and I know I'm spoiling quite a bit of it, but helps you understand the context once you get into it. The Guy Winters is the main character of a very popular, or incredibly popular show called The Fortress of Time. And unfortunately, when the antinodes disappeared and cut all the power and cast humanity into darkness, it happened right before the finale was supposed to air, so you understand Guy's fate. And so Asa, her mission now is to, because we learned through the course of the story that Asa actually worked on the set, and now she's going to deliver the message of hope to the people who are waiting for the finale of that show and are just dying to know what happened at the very end. Now, it sounds weird, and it's like, oh, that's all it is. It sort of makes light of the finale and makes light of the post-apocalyptic situation and the seriousness of what people are in. But there's a twist. And the twist is, that one we're not going to spoil. But what it does is it adds a philosophical and a metaphorical layer to Asa's quest that really gives you a lot to think about and a lot to chew on as far as how we perceive stories, which is timely considering we just did a sort of an in memoriam message about the passing of Akira Toriyama, who is the creator of Dragon Ball, and that importance of stories and what that means to people is still fresh in our minds. So the fact that we got this issue now, or reviewing this issue now, is very timely. And there's a twist that happens at the end, and then there's a sort of a cliffhanger moment at the end, a very serious and dire one, that presents a philosophical question about which is more important, what the stories mean to people, or the vision of the story from the creator and the integrity of the creator's vision? Which is more important, what the creator wanted or what the people who received the message wanted? And that speaks to volumes about comics industry right now. That's a big debate that's happening right now, as far as what publishers are putting out versus what the readers actually want. And then actually that expands beyond the comics industry as a whole. That's goes to music, it goes to films, it goes to everything else that's going on. And so that's a big philosophical question, and I didn't expect it to be presented in this way. It was very interesting, and by the time it ended, even though there's an open ending, you don't quite know how it resolves. It leaves you wanting to think about the implications of who's right, which path is better, and which is more important given the context of where art falls within our greater society and culture. So this was a very surprising read. I wasn't expecting this at all. So at least on that aspect, incredibly impressed with the thoughtfulness and the ideas that are presented in this story. And once you get that little twist about Aces presenting the finale from a TV show, you think, oh, that's kind of dumb, or maybe not even dumb, but just at least it's much less. It seems much less important given the scale of what the life that Ace is living through and where the world has devolved into. But once you see what the outcome of her story means to the people around her, and then another twist that happens after that kind of changes everything that you understand about the perspective of stories, it becomes something very different by the end. Very surprising, very impressive. So I'm going to give you also a little bit of a tidbit about why this particular comic is different than most others that we get. The creator, Travis Corwin, is part of a band called Antinode, which is where the node Antinode comes from. And this comic accompanies with a song and a soundtrack album that speaks to a lot of the themes and the issues that are in the story. If you're listening to this on podcast or watching this on YouTube, you're probably hearing strange music in the background, strange from this perspective. That's not any music we've ever heard before. This is part of that soundtrack. So if you like comics that have a little bit of an extra to it, you can purchase both the comic and the soundtrack together as a bundle from the links that are in the review. And so if you're wanting something a little bit different and just more thoughtful from an artistic point of view, that's the interesting factoid for today, that you can actually get music that was intentionally designed to accompany this story. What do we think of Finale One Shot? Again, it's not so much about the premise or the plot, although the plot kind of goes up and down and it presents some interesting ideas, but it's the thought and the philosophical questions that are posed by the plot that make the big difference. When it starts off, it's a pretty standard, I would say, boilerplate post-apocalyptic story, but once the twists start to come into play, it really turns into something unique and different that I don't think we've ever experienced before. So that's good, and that's a great positive. What didn't we like about Finale One Shot? I think just because of the tonal ups and downs, sometimes you're not quite sure where it's going, and it's not until the twists come in that you really start to get pulled into the story. In the beginning, it's very standard, generic, post-apocalyptic lone traveler trying to survive kind of stuff. It's not bad, but it's very generic. But so if you stick with it, you'll get there. But the beginning maybe could have had something a little bit special, maybe something a little spicier to hook you. But if you stay in and you stick with it, you'll be paid off in the end. So how about the art? What do we talk? What's the story with the art from Philip Ginn or Ginn? Apologize, I'm not sure which it is. It's okay. It's very light. There's not a lot of detail in the figure work and the character work, and the coloring is in that watercolor aesthetic style. It's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's lacking in detail. It has more of a storybook type of look to it, especially when some of the more detailed close-up shots. So it's sketchy, it's rough, but the composition is there. You know what you're getting. The story is being communicated through the art, which is the ultimate goal. Is it the best art we've ever seen? No, it's very storybook, and the watercolor application of the colors also kind of underscore that it has a more of a storybook feel to it, and something that you wouldn't necessarily see on a typical comic shelf. But it's not bad. it does what it needs to do, and ultimately that's what counts. Final thoughts. What did we think about finale one shot? Uh, Interesting premise once the twists get going, and the twists leave you with an ending that make you think, which is exactly, I think, the intention. Plus the fact that the story is accompanied by a soundtrack created by the creator also gives it an added layer of kind of artistic interest that kind of make it worth picking up. On the downside, it does take a while to get going. It's not slow, but it's generic in the beginning. But once the twists kick in, then it becomes more interesting. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more of a hook in the beginning, but once it gets going, it's worth considering. Therefore, we're going to give finale one shot. Just because of the overall package is where it really comes into play as being something special. I would give finale one shot from Travis Corwin an 8 out of 10. I hope you liked this review. Please stay tuned through the outro for the next one.